Surviving the Survivor. We bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor, the show that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime and also some of the best analysis on ongoing live federal trials like Sean Diddy Combs, who is on trial for his life in a courtroom where there are no cameras and no electronics. However, there are people and sources who I met. As you know, I was there live last week, and a few different people who we are getting information for about the details of what's going on in both the morning and afternoon sessions. And we're going to continue to bring you these live recaps every single day of this trial, every day at lunch. Tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time, we're doing a full recap show. On days where we're not doing full Diddy coverage at night, we'll bring you another one of these recaps in the afternoon, and we'll continue to do so through the duration of the trial. Now, the big issue, and again, I've been talking to a lot of lawyers about this, and when I was in the courtroom last week, what everyone was talking about were the actual charges, which you don't always hear in criminal cases, but the charges include sex trafficking, racketeering, and obstruction. Now, everyone agrees that this is a DV case. It is a domestic violence case, even a case that rhymes with grape. We don't say the word on YouTube. It appears evident that all of these things did in fact happen, especially when you're going to hear what two more witnesses had to say today. But the question is, can they prove this force, fraud, and coercion? That's sort of at the crux of it. So if you remember those three words, they are the absolute most important ones for this particular case: force, fraud, coercion. And they don't have to show all three, but just one of the three. And some of the prosecutors who I talked to already believe that the government did enough, perhaps, to get one of these three. So in their opinion, it is already not looking good. And keep in mind, this is only the second week of testimony, day 6 to be precise, of testimony. Now, of interest, and this happened, I believe, Friday, some of Sean Combs' family did not show up until late. Well, family members, including Quincy Brown, Justin Combs, King Combs, they were not in court today, as well as his mother, Janice Combs, who were there pretty much every day last week. This also includes his twin daughters, Jessie and Delilah. Apparently, none of them in court today. Whether they arrived late morning is still to be determined, but it is interesting. And keep in mind, a lot of the testimony was the sort of thing you wouldn't want your mother or your children to hear. As a matter of fact, I was personally surprised that they were in there last week because of the graphic nature of the testimony. I came from an open family. I would not want to know these details about Carm, nor my father, nor anyone else. But we were nevertheless forced to listen to it. So, as has been happening every day in court, Judge Arun Subramanian, who is an amazing judge, and he's only been federal judge for, I think, under 2 years, but he has a really strong command of the courtroom. They had some pretrial arguments. The defense objected to Dawn Richards' testimony on Friday. If you recall, the Danity Kane singer took the stand late in the day Friday, and the judge tentatively rules early this morning that Dawn Richards' Friday testimony was in fact permissible, but ruled against the prosecution for another planned testimony from Richard. He said that the prosecution's proposed testimony could, quote unquote, skew the case more toward gossip as opposed to what actual witnesses actually saw or did. So interesting. He's allowing in the testimony, and there was a redirect, so I'm not exactly sure how this fits in, if they meant they're going to call her again later in the trial, but apparently there won't be a recall of this particular witness as we move forward. Now, court is just winding up for lunch, so we bring this to you a few minutes early, so you're on top of it. and get it first, as they say in news. Around 9, just before 9:40 this morning, Dawn Richard recalls Sean Combs. She's now providing testimony. And she recalls Sean Combs threatening her and Cassie Ventura back in 2009. And this is a powerful quote. She tells jurors, and I quote, "You could go missing, that we could die." It's a serious threat from Sean Combs. You could go missing, we could die. And this all happened after an incident where Sean Combs allegedly hits Cassie with a metal skillet, otherwise known as a frying pan. That would hurt quite a bit, a metal frying pan to the head. Dawn Richard testifies that she frequently saw Sean Combs violently attack Cassie for speaking up for herself. In other words, if she fought back just verbally, she would get a beating. She says that the abuse included punching, choking, slapping, and kicking. Violence would often erupt if Cassie voiced opinions or asserted herself. Sounds like Mr. Combs is a bit of a misogynist and did not want her providing her own opinions and or commentary. Direct quote again from Dawn Richard, and this is a long one. "Frequently, he would punch her, choke her, slap her in the mouth, kick her, punch her in the stomach. It could be random, but it was often because Cassie was speaking up for herself. She would be quiet, and when she had these moments of trying to stick up for herself, he would hurt her for it. He would hurt her for it." So very powerful testimony. Dawn Richard and fellow bandmates around this time, after she was beaten and had some black eyes, they wore sunglasses, and they did this in public support, but no one really knew what was going on at the time. But the band was supporting her after some allegations that he had punched her in the face before a Central Park event. Sunglasses, again, worn in solidarity to help when Cassie was wearing those sunglasses to conceal a swollen eye. You're looking at the courtroom sketches from Jane Rosenberg, who was a famous figure in New York City and in these federal cases where there are no cameras or electronics allowed, at least for the vast majority of the media. It is Jane Rosenberg who captures most of this information in terms of the visual aspect. So Dawn Richard, she has to go through her music history with the producer known as Sean Combs. She talks about Danity Kane, the band, which basically emerged from MTV's Making the Band 3. The band itself disbanded in 2009, and then Dawn Richard goes and collaborates with a singer named Kalena Harper. This is 2009 through 2012, and she's also involved at that point again with Sean Combs. And then she releases a solo album called Golden Heart, released back in 2013. So we're going back about 12 years now. The government asks, "You felt Mr. Combs ruined your career not once, but twice, Westmoreland." I think this might actually be the defense. I'm sorry. And she responds, yes, Dawn Richards does. Just after 10 in the morning, Dawn Richard testifies that Sean Combs routinely would do things to stall Cassie's album from coming out. If you recall, he signed a 10-album deal, which they talked about last week during 4 days of testimony for Cassie Ventura, but the 10 albums ended up being one album. And you hear Dawn Richard today saying that Sean Combs was essentially doing what he could to keep the other albums from apparently ever being produced, presumably as a power play to say, hey, I've got her under my thumb. I control the flow of these albums. And if I don't want her being rewarded with another album and, of course, paid for another album, then we will not do so. And that is what Sean Combs did. He controlled the way things were being produced and how frequently, how often, etc. Again, just after 10 a.m. this morning, and it is now almost 1 o'clock on the East Coast, Dawn Richard the former Danity Kane band member, testified that Sean Combs received drugs from a dealer, and that dealer's name was known as One Stop. And this goes to some of the drug charges, some of the RICO charges that are part of this case that we are watching play out in real time. One Stop, this drug dealer, cocaine and marijuana were delivered to the studios by him. The drugs were kept, and we heard about this again last week from Cassie Ventura, in a Louis Vuitton pouch known simply as the med bag. That is what Cassie said it was referred to. Dawn Richard also said that Sean Diddy's security team, they would carry weapons typically in the lower back, in their lower back portion of their body. So holstered, or maybe not holstered, but just sort of in the back waistband of their pants. So she provided, some pretty explicit testimony in terms of the firearms that Diddy's security team used. A little after 10 a.m., when asked what she hopes to gain from testifying here today, she makes it very clear: I'm expecting justice. And she pushes back against a defense claim that her civil suit implies simply a financial motive. Now, this lawsuit, it was filed just this past September. So, obviously less than a year ago. She files it against Sean Combs, the artist, accusing him of the following: threatening her, touching her inappropriately, and flying into quote unquote frenzied, unpredictable rages when he was in charge of her musical career. Frenzied, unpredictable rages when Sean Combs was in charge of her musical career. So now painting the picture that it wasn't just Cassie Ventura, but other female artists, where he would lash out and seemingly lose his mind and also his temper, and he would hit and lash out and strike these women. In the lawsuit, Dawn Richard said there were times when Sean Combs would order her to strip down to her underwear, and then he would throw objects at her or fail to pay her for her time and work. One of Diddy's ex-bodyguards, I was watching an interview, referred to him as a demon, and she is certainly portraying this picture of Sean Combs. This guy is certainly, from the testimony so far, he has got a screw or two or three loose in that head of his. And again, I was talking to some former federal prosecutors, and they say that the government is doing what they need to do. There you go. You don't see him often, but there is Judge Arun Subramanian. I believe the last time I saw Sketch, he had a little bit more grayish hair, but I guess Jane Rosenberg was kind today. You see the dual monitors. Sean Combs, if this is, I don't know if this is a recent or a slightly older sketch, to be honest, but you can see the gray hair. That looks more like the old prison jumpsuit that we saw. That is, I believe, from today, and it would be a slightly different colored yellow sweater. Last week, he was all in oatmeal all week long. Around 10:15 in the morning, the defense begins cross. Now, if you remember last week, after Cassie took the stand, a lot of people said, well, they had to be real careful because you don't want to cross-examine a witness that they admit. They said in the openings, hey, this is a domestic violence case, but you don't want to take someone like that and cross-examine them too harshly. And in fact, they did a really good job last week. It was Anna Estevejo at one point even telling Cassie Ventura how beautiful she looked and that she was smart. So kind of lavishing praise on her. But a different story today with Dawn Richard. They begin their focus, and they start right with the civil lawsuit. And after discussing the civil lawsuit a little bit, defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland, her name is Nicole Westmoreland, and this is one of an army of attorneys for Sean Diddy Combs. She points out that Dawn Richard had previously said she heard a pan hit the wall, but didn't see it, to which Dawn Richard responds, I wasn't aware or didn't recall those specifics. So now they're getting a lot more aggressive. At the bottom of the hour, 10:30-ish, the defense again questions this whole metal skillet incident, suggesting that there are inconsistencies over whether Combs threw eggs or used the actual skillet to hit Cassie. Are they parsing the language? I mean, is it obviously going to hurt less if you're throwing eggs? Yes, but does that do anything for the jurors? I'm not sure, because it shows an unhinged maniac reacting in a crazy kind of way. Okay, eggs aren't going to hurt as much as getting hit in the head with a metal skillet, but the jurors are going to have to decide here about the specifics of this testimony. The defense attorney says, and I quote here, "Would you agree with me? It has been hard for you to keep your story straight with respect to this egg incident." To which Dawn Richard replies, and I quote again, "I told it as close as I could." I cannot see the jurors holding this against Dawn Richard, the defense doing what they need to do. But to me, this portion of it, I don't want to say appears silly, because this is a very serious case with serious allegations, but, arguing over the skillet versus the eggs, it's getting into the minutia of detail that I don't think is going to affect these jurors one way or the other. 10:37 a.m. The defense challenges Richard's claim here, Dawn Richard's claim. She said that essentially Sean Combs would make them disappear. We all know what that means, that he would unalive them, and said that people go missing, quote unquote. The defense points out that she never said this in past interviews, and she was interviewed, I believe, during grand jury testimony and by deposed at other times. And she responds by saying, "I didn't remember it then, but because she's been questioned about it over and over, she's now recalling things that she didn't initially recall." The defense highlights that Dawn initially also failed to mention guns, any sort of guns. And you'll recall she said that the security guys were keeping the guns in their back waistband of their pants, that there were 8 previous meetings with prosecutors where she never mentioned guns. And her response to that makes sense. She says she wasn't asked about it, so she didn't offer it up. But now she's saying that these security guys, and this goes to force, fraud, and coercion, force and coercion here, but definitely force, the fact that Diddy has a team who are carrying firearms in the back of their pants. She admits she changed her account of drug use, saying now that Sean Combs was using ketamine, cocaine, and MDMA, which is otherwise known as Molly. About 11:15 in the morning or so, Dawn Richard from Danity Kane fame admits she asked to work with Sean Combs again in 2011 and as recently as 2020 or 2021. And that could be an issue for the jurors, I think, because now here's a woman who is returning to obviously a very volatile man. But look, their careers depend on it. The way they're paid and feed their families depend on Sean Combs. But apparently, after witnessing everything that she did, in fact, witness, she tries to get back in a business relationship with Sean Combs as recently as about 4 years ago. And then she goes on to say that she thinks that Sean Combs derailed her career not once, but twice. So the jurors have to ask themselves, is there an ulterior motive here? Is she just angry and upset that Sean Combs, like he was with Cassie Ventura, dictating the terms of her career and the amount of money that she was making? Now the government has a chance on redirect. So they go back to question Dawn Richard once the defense is done. And she says that the trauma from all of this abuse, basically from Sean Combs, caused memory repression. She says that, again, her recollections are only kind of surfacing in part now because of the investigation and all the questions. And the direct quote is, "It did not all come back immediately. Every day it gets easier to remember certain things. I try my best to do the best of my ability." I can't tell you how many times in this short amount of time, relatively, that I've been covering true crime, that I've heard defense attorneys, including Alan Jackson recently during the Karen Reed trial, use the exact same question to some of the witnesses. He said, "So you're telling me your memory gets better over time?" Well, that's what the defense here was essentially questioning Dawn Richard about. Your memory's getting better now? I don't understand. But in fairness to her, according to her, she wasn't being questioned about certain things like the guns. So she wasn't bringing it up, and she wasn't really thinking about it. She was pushing it way down. And now investigators were asking her all about it. And so it was coming back to the surface, at least according to her. She paints the picture and sort of restates and re-emphasizes that she, in fact, firsthand witnessed Sean Combs hit Cassie Ventura. But not only that, that he dragged her by the hair. And we saw that on the now infamous Intercontinental Hotel video from Century City in California. That was a pattern where he would drag her by the hair and pull her from room to room. And she says that she saw this happening firsthand, where Sean Combs was literally pulling Cassie Ventura by the hair, dragging her around. And she's asked, "Are you sure you saw this?" by the government. And the quote is, "I have no doubt." Just before noon, Dawn Richard admits on cross that despite Sean Combs' death threats, again, she did try to collaborate with him once again, as recently as 4 years ago. And when asked by the government, if she wants money from the lawsuit she filed this past September, her answer was yes. I want justice and I want to be made whole. And listen, I can't blame someone whose career they claim was derailed by somebody to now ask for financial remuneration. So that's what she's saying. And obviously, Cassie Ventura, we found out last week, filed a lawsuit for $30 million and within 24 hours settled that claim in the amount of $20 million. And we had attorneys on last week who said, look, if Diddy, who had the extra 10 million and just gave her exactly what she wanted, it might have prevented him from being in this situation right now. Although perhaps this is the best situation in terms of getting justice for a guy who seems like he's got more than a couple of screws loose in that noggin of his. So just when noon was rolling around, Dawn Richard is released from the stand by the judge, and now a new witness is up there. And we heard a lot about this witness last week from Cassie Ventura herself. This is Kerry Morgan. It is Cassie Ventura's best friend. You see her there, the blonde, who was, I believe, modeling around the same time as Cassie Ventura. They hit it off. They became very close friends. Cassie had testified last week that her friendship ended after Sean Combs actually hit Kerry Morgan with a wooden hanger. And we heard all this testimony. So now we're going to just today from a metal skillet to a wooden hanger. And just goes to paint this picture of Diddy as a bit of a monster, hitting women with physical objects whenever he would either find himself frustrated or angry. That's the kind of thing and the method that he would resort to. They did talk. She did talk, Kerry Morgan, about how she was close to both Sean Combs and Cassie Ventura in the quote unquote early years. And she was friends with Cassie at the very beginning of this relationship. She admits that the only reason I'm testifying is because of a government subpoena. She said, and I quote, "I moved on with my life," and I've got to credit her for doing that. She extricated herself from this really horrible dysfunction, seemingly physically abusive relationship, and she moved on. Cassie Ventura remains stuck in it, but Carrie didn't want any part of testifying today, but the federal government said, we need to talk to you, and therefore she was there. By the way, if you look at that U.S. Marshal, very nice guy. I had a chance to talk to him on the picture on the left there, and he was making sure everything was running smoothly. These federal marshals who run the federal courthouse have a tough job with a lot of bigger than life New York characters, both the celebrities, and I'm just talking about the regular people sort of milling around. And I'm glad to see that he's got a smile on his face there, because a lot of the day he's dealing with a lot of nonsense. But Carrie Morgan gets up. Yeah, look how young they did look, like little young early, well, they were in their early 20s there. But Carrie Morgan describes Sean Combs, and this is probably the understatement of the year, as having mood swings. She also said he was very aggressive. She goes on, and this is really sad to say, that Cassie lost her quote unquote spark over time. Now, we heard last week, whenever Cassie would sort of disappear, Sean Combs would get into this frenzied state. He would have to know where she is. He'd have to find her. And it was no different with Carrie Morgan. She recounts a time where Sean Combs called her 50 times in a row. I'm talking back to back to back to back, 50 times, looking for her friend Cassie Ventura. And I guess they have a phone log, and maybe they'll bring this up later in the trial, literally calling back to back to back. Imagine getting 50 phone calls in a row. Carrie Morgan says she personally, and now we're hearing this from Dawn, now we're hearing this from Carrie, and we heard this from Danny Phillip, the first witness who was the escort. So now we're hearing this, including Cassie, from everyone who has testified. She says she personally witnessed Sean Combs assault Cassie on at least 2 different occasions, once in Jamaica, once in Los Angeles, and said that on top of that, he would often speak down to her, and he would belittle her looks, which is, I think, sort of DV and abusive and coercive control 101, when you start tearing at the looks. And if you look at Cassie Ventura, there's not much to pick at with the looks. She's a beautiful woman by anyone's standards. So, again, just goes to show the depraved behavior of Sean Diddy Combs. She gets into some of the specifics of what happened in both L.A. and Jamaica. She also said that Cassie Ventura felt that she could not leave Sean Combs because her entire career and livelihood depended on it. Specifically, her job, her car, her apartment, they all had financial ties to Sean Combs. Again, this is somebody who is exhibiting coercive control. These are some of the methods, obviously, that they're going to use. Carrie Morgan said that she encouraged Cassie Ventura to speak to police, but Cassie repeatedly resisted, and she did so, Carrie Morgan says, because she refused out of fear and dependence. She also said she observed that after spending time with Sean Combs' friends, that Cassie seemed reluctant to leave him, like she was part of this circle of people. Carrie Morgan describes multiple violent incidents. So to the Jamaica incident, she says it happened during a vacation. Sean Combs allegedly became enraged when Cassie took too long in the bathroom. How about that? She was spending more time than he thought was appropriate for her to be in the bathroom. And then Carrie Morgan testifies to hearing, and I quote here, guttural, terrifying screams. She then saw Sean Combs, once again, dragging Cassie by her hair from the bedroom. He, according to Carrie here, he threw her, Cassie Ventura, onto the brick pavement, causing her to hit her head. What could they do? Well, Cassie and Carrie Morgan, they hopped in a golf cart and they hid in a ditch off the golf course while Sean Combs searched for them in another cart for hours, literally hiding in a ditch to avoid this guy who increasingly appears to be an unhinged lunatic. My words, not hers. Los Angeles, the incident in LA happened at a house in the Hollywood Hills. Kerry Morgan witnesses Sean Combs. She says either hit or kick Cassie. Kerry Morgan begged his security guard, a guy named Ruben, to intervene, but he refused. And I don't know if we're going to hear from Ruben, but we're going to hear from some of these guys. And I expect to hear the same argument. Well, my livelihood depended on it. I couldn't get involved. I thought what Sean Combs was doing was wrong, but I had to sit there and watch because he was paying my checks. So who knows if we'll hear from Ruben or not. But the bottom line is security stopped or never, at least at this point, never tried to jump in and help. So Kerry Morgan and Cassie in LA, they run off again, this time not in a golf cart, but on their feet or in a car. And they go to a neighbor's house. And now they hear Sean Combs circling this house in a car, searching for them. And despite all of this, Kerry Morgan says that Cassie Ventura later returns home to be with Sean Combs. So it is all but certain, at least in my opinion, that the government is going to have to bring in an expert on coercive control and domestic violence to say, look, just because she went back to him doesn't mean this happened. To the contrary, these are, prime examples of what happens when you are beaten down verbally and physically to this degree. Eventually you just come back and you you kind of crawl back to the person because you're dependent on them for so much, but primarily financial and in an odd way, I guess emotionally, even though the person is beating on you. So expect to hear an expert testify to this. Just a few more things. I just wanted to recap real quickly for those who may be jumping into this late. Cassie Ventura did spend 4 days on the witness stand last week and described her 10-year relationship, which was almost 11 years, as being marked by violence and physical abuse. Cassie Ventura, when she testified last week, was 8.5 months pregnant, and there was some drama because it appeared the defense was going to try to extend their cross. The judge said, no way. This woman could essentially go into labor this past weekend, which, as far as I know, she did not. But they were worried that if she did, what would happen to the trial? So they did, in fact, finish off cross and redirect last week. And Dawn Richard from Danity Kane even got on the stand late in the day on Friday. She testified, Cassie Ventura did, that the now infamous freak-offs left her physically wrecked for days at a time. So it would take her a lot of time just to recover from everything. Jurors were shown that 2016 surveillance video, which is sort of the prized evidence for the government, where you see this actually happening in real time in that hotel lobby where Sean Combs is beating her, hitting her. And then there's a moment at the end, which is difficult to watch. And they've showed it over and over where he just stomps on her back. And then we saw photos last week toward the end of testimony where it was actually Cassie Ventura's own mother who took these pictures of bruises on the back of Cassie Ventura's lower back, on her lower back as well as on her thighs. So she was beaten badly enough to be bruised quite substantially. The defense introduced hundreds of text messages toward the end of last week that basically suggested that the freak-offs were consensual. And at points, Cassie Ventura even helped them. Again, this goes back to why they need to bring an expert on. It's not surprising, at least not to me, that she was trying to keep Sean Combs happy, because we saw and see what happens when he is unhappy. Sean Combs has, in fact, pleaded guilty, not guilty, excuse me. He's pleaded not guilty to all of the charges. If convicted, he does face up to life in prison. We caught glimpses of the 18 jurors. 6 are alternates, 12 are regular. Of the 12, there's said to be 8 men and 4 women. I believe last week I saw 3 African Americans roughly on the jury, saw an older white guy, middle-aged white woman. So it kind of runs the gamut in terms of the demographics of New York City. And now they've got their work cut out for them in terms of, what do they make of this? Do they believe Dawn Richard of Danity Kane? And if so, it's going to be a big problem for Sean Diddy Combs. But we are far from the end here. We're expecting about 7 more weeks of this sort of testimony. You see here, juror number 2, 69-year-old male actor and massage therapist. Juror number 5, 31-year-old male investment analyst in New York City. Juror number 25, 51-year-old male PhD in molecular biology. Juror number 28, 30-year-old female deli clerk from the Bronx. Juror number 55, a 42-year-old female nursing home aide. I should say that the galleries and the overflow rooms last week appeared to be basically a microcosm of New York City, like the jurors. It was people from all walks of life. I saw someone literally in a MTA subway uniform that they were going to work on the subway from the courtroom. You saw people who appeared to be attorneys, businessmen, so it ran the gamut. And these jurors, again, going to have their work cut out for them. So that is day 6 of testimony this morning. We're bringing on another great panel tonight to discuss the inner workings of this case. That's going to happen at 7 p.m. Eastern time and at 5 p.m. Eastern today. No rest for the weary. There is news out of the world of Dan Markel and Donna Adelson, things that I have not fully had a chance to review yet, but I know about them and could impact the trial, which has already been pushed from June 3rd to now August 19th. So 2 big shows coming up tonight. Appreciate you all being here. On your way out, if you wouldn't mind, please hit that like button, subscribe, and COE, hop on in. Let me know what to do.
Hey, yeah, now that you're in studio, do you want to take questions or comments?
I would love to if I can answer them. Yes. Would absolutely love to. Do you want to bring them up, COE? I'll just start to bring some up, but Da Vinci, or Vinci, I guess, but it's with an XI. Why isn't this a grand jury case? I believe it went before the grand jury. So IGG rocks. Sorry, I'm just looking at the comments for those who are listening. COE, if there are any big questions that you want to pull up, I'm not seeing a whole lot of questions at the moment. This one here, I bet half of Diddy's lawyers are going to quit or he's going to fire them. It's possible. These are some of the best attorneys in New York City, if not the world. Right now they're in the middle of this process. So we'll see. Will his entourage be arrested if he is found guilty? I don't think so, but I do think, unless there are other circumstances, but I do think that they've already, the federal government, they have a lot of leverage. And going into this trial, we don't know exactly who they leaned on, but you see here from Dana C, they are cooperating. Trust me, the feds went to these people, the bodyguards in particular, the ones we heard about with guns in their back waistband, and they said, look, either you help us or we're going to hurt you in terms of legal ramifications. They have the authority and the power to charge these guys, and I can guarantee you that some of these security guards are going to be singing, if you know what I mean. Thank you so much. Allergic to cats. I am allergic to cats, and when I was in New York, I stayed with not 1 but 2 cats, but luckily for Claritin, it helped save me. I do like cats. They're odd little creatures, those cats. Weird little humans, or little cat. I guess they're not humans, but I consider animals, like, I guess, better than humans. Sorry, Mary Benny, I missed your super chat, but thank you so much. Have we heard anything more? Great question. So witness number 3 is apparently, unless this changed this morning and I didn't catch it, witness number 3 has remained missing. And this is sort of not talked about, I guess, as much as it should. There was supposed to be, a lot of people thought there'd be 50 women testifying, but there were only really 3 witnesses plus Sean Combs's assistant Mia. But this third witness, including her attorney, apparently can't be located. So everyone is assuming that she's a no-go, missing in action. There you go from Rosa B. Same question. I've talked to a lot of lawyers about this. They don't seem to think it's that big a deal. Again, remember the words force, fraud, coercion. Force, fraud, coercion. FFC, force, fraud, coercion. They need to prove one of those things for the trafficking, and then there's the RICO charges. And according to people I've talked to, they believe the government has already shown this. The other thing to point out, which I think is important, is when you hear such god-awful stories about a person like Sean Combs, they are obviously instructed to follow the letter of the law and the evidence. But I don't care what a judge says in a setting like this, there are going to be people that are going to vote for his guilt just based on his horrific actions. And I would not be surprised if that in fact happened. Who's in court for STS? I worked at Fox 5 in New York City. I worked at Fox News Channel, so it was a bit of a reunion when I was up there last week. And we've got a few different people that are not working specifically for us per se, but that I talk to throughout the day and the course of the day and get information from. So it's great to have those people. And some of them will be appearing on our nightly shows. I don't know that we're going to do a show every single night or even close, but a few times a week. And on the days that we don't, I'll do a similar afternoon recap to keep everybody in the know. Sandra says, so sad what happened in 11 years. He had the power to stop her from getting any jobs in the industry. He's so powerful. He sure is. I mean, this is, if you ever saw the Tina Turner movie with Ike Turner, there's it's analogous, and people have made the analogy to that. Ike Turner was a bit unhinged, and so that would be, one of many comparisons about the music industry going sideways. What's next on your docket, Joel? It's going to be a very, very busy summer, and I have to pace myself because I got to tell you, reporting is a young man's game, and I'm not that old. But sadly, I had a friend I've known for 45 years passed away last night from a massive heart attack. And thinking about him and his family, and I hadn't seen him in years. So it's not happening to me, but the point is just 1 week in New York was a lot. But this summer, we've got Stephon Stearns, the creep out of Orlando, accused in the murder, and S.A. and R-ing of Matty Soto. He's supposed to go on trial in July. I'll be there for that. Thank you. This is if anyone, I don't want to make light of this in any way, because it's a guy I've known for many years. And again, my thoughts, my prayers, everything goes out to his family and his friend. I know his friends very well too. But when you get in your 50s, Bill Burr has a whole stand-up comedy routine, and the title of his routine right now, and I think he is the best stand-up comic of our entire generation, who happens to be from Karen Reed's neck of the woods. He's from Canton, Mass. And I said I would have covered Reed if I could get Bill Burr on to give commentary. But anyway, Bill Burr's stand-up tour, most recent tour, was titled The Drop Dead Years. And he was talking about exactly that. The people that you know in your 50s start to drop dead, which is, you only get one go around here. It's scary. I don't want to get sappy on you guys, but there were these amazing trees I saw in Miami last night. I took a photo and I posted them on Instagram at Surviving the Survivor to just kind of take a breath and appreciate things. And this was before this friend of mine passed away. Thank you, Jan. I appreciate that. For the record, I just joined last week and I love it here. Really appreciate it. We typically do shows in the evenings with a panel of guests. I describe myself, because I really liked him actually, but I describe myself as the Larry King of true crime. He was a New Yorker, obviously, broadcast. I'm not a legend, but he was a broadcasting legend with the suspenders, and we're doing that now with true crime. We're doing roundtable discussions every night, and Allergic to Cats says it here. Remember, never get involved with a coworker, a boss, a career maker. Never. Absolutely love the COE started. She and I don't know why I plug shows on this channel, but we started. What's that called? COE, your friends and neighbor, or something like that, with the dreamy John Hamm, and that show is. I'm loving it. I was too tired to keep watching last night, but I'm absolutely loving it. Talks about essentially the insanity of life and keeping up with the Joneses. And I bring that up because life is short. So, yeah, I don't know. Don't get too caught up in that, I guess, is my point. Larry King was the bomb. I loved Larry. Poor guy. No longer with us. He loved the Dodgers. Nicole never cared for Larry. What was great about Larry King is he was sort of a simpleton. He asked 3-word questions, unlike, I won't mention names, Anderson Cooper, who takes 9 news cycles after doing this for 30 years to spit out a question. Watch Anderson Cooper. Watch how many times that guy just stutters and spends minutes just getting out a simple question. Well, Larry King would do it in 3 words. Sorry, I had to. Phil and Scott, Phil and Scott were going to be on Friday, but I couldn't. And then this Friday, Scott has a concert and Phil is back in Hawaii. We're going to get it together. It's just been an unusual and weird time. But Phil and Scott and I, we talk via text almost every day. So we'll and with Phil being in Hawaii, we've got to do the show at around 5 p.m. Eastern. We're not here for a long time, but we're here for a good time. And remember that Ned Smith, a Weezer concert. I have no idea. You know what? Maybe that's the last. I'll find out and I'll let you know. You can follow me on Instagram at Surviving the Survivor. Twitter, it is at Podcast STS. I don't want to whine, especially because Ned Smith is here and she never whines, but I might go home and crash for an hour because I am exhausted. And we got 2 shows coming up at 5 and 7. Fred, I just want you to know he goes on hunger strikes when I am not there. So he was happy to see me, and he is eating again, and he's probably back up to a solid 11 pounds. So, and Ethel, of course, she's just a sweetheart. Ethel is like the underappreciated and underadmired one of the family, but she is really the true, genuine good heart. I'm talking about my dogs now, not my kids. My kids were happy to see me. And that is real love. When someone stops eating because you're not there, that is true love. And he waits at the door for me. I'm thinking of bringing him into the studio. Ned Smith, Canine Catherine, Nancy Best. Should I start to bring Freddie into the studio? My fear is 2 things: that he's going to chew on wires, and or he's going to start barking for no reason. He hears things occasionally. Check out the Diddy poll on our channel's community tab /post. Ned Smith says yes. Best Nancy says yes. I can't do it on a day where I have 2 shows, but this week I will do it. You should, Joel. Yes, Joel. Fred the pug. I could bring Ethel in here, but everything will get knocked over. She's like a bull in a china shop. Ethel wiggles out of excitement. Her behind wiggles, and she'll just knock everything over. And she's big, but Fred's like the size of, my palm. Canine Catherine, one of my oldest and best friends who I've never met. She says, bring Fred in. Dogs do have the 6th sense. Life is tough, man. That's what I will say. I don't want to get deep and heavy. I am a worrier. I think everybody knows that. Like I said, a friend of mine, literally, I don't think people realize this. When you have a heart attack, this guy had a heart attack and hit his head on the pavement. And so 2 things happened. He had a massive heart attack, but he was also knocked unconscious. I don't want to depress everyone, but my point is this. when you're gone, and you're gone for a very long time, like forever, like infinity. I really, I want to believe, I really do. I want to believe in the Jewish religion believes in the world to come, like an other world. And I want to believe that there is another world where I will see my dad, but I'm not so sure. I don't know how we got into this. This is what happens when I'm tired and delirious. The COE keeping me on track. Donna Adelson. Show is at 5 p.m. By the way, I'm shocked Carm hasn't called because she called me a second before I went on air. And I said, I'm going on air. And now I'm talking about a friend who died. And I'm shocked she hasn't called while I'm on air to ask who. But I will talk to her and let her know. Joel is waxing poetic. I like it. I want to go on an STS road trip. I want to do an STS meetup. So someone asked, and I never fully answered. I'm going to be going to Orlando for Stefan Stearns. Then I have to go to Boise for the first week of Brian Koberger. I will be there for the first week. And then I'm going directly from there to Tallahassee. Luckily, I don't think my kids know any of this. And then after Tallahassee, we've got the Stefan Stearns murder trial and crime con in between. But I would like to set up a meetup because this doesn't exist without STS Nation. It is my favorite community. It is the best community in all of true crime, but in all of the YouTubes. There is no better community. I really, truly feel like everyone here is family. I really do. Mr. Man, I can't blame you. I'll stick to this world. I would like to see my father again. I don't know if that's going to ever happen, but there you go. There is Joel. This makes me happy. I've lost enough people to know that you will see them again. By the way, the COE, many people don't know this. She's into the paranormal. She has a friend named Harold who is not of this planet. He is I guess the best way to say it is a ghost that she has seen. And I don't know if she spoke to Harold. And she's probably upset that I'm revealing this, but I actually like that about the COE. She does believe in paranormal behavior, and she had a conversation with Harold, or maybe not a conversation, but she met Harold. And this was when she was living in a different state. So here we go. The COE saying, no, I'm not into the paranormal. I just saw weird things in Yakima, Washington. Well, if you're going to see stuff anywhere that's weird, there you go. Space Coast didn't realize his sister was into ghosts and that she's a little odd, but yes, she is. And his name is Harold, Space Coast. We should just make a shirt that just says Harold. That's it. Speaking of shirts, we've got the merch store wide open on the YouTube channel and a lot of new merch that's actually cool. So check it out. I think I've talked about nothing long enough. So I'm going to say, love you all. Love you back in Miami, Florida, the Magic City, and downtown Manhattan Federal Court. Listen, whether Diddy hit Cassie with a metal skillet or threw eggs at her face, they both are horrible. This guy, no doubt, is got some demon in him, and at the very least is a horrific control freak and an awful person. So whether he gets convicted, it's going to take a while to find out, because this is, I don't think it's going to go a full 8 weeks, but we will see. We'll see how it all goes. And Dana C says a demon for sure. There you go. Lisa says he needs to rot in jail. And we'll end on a benign comment. Thank you. And thank you for being here. Again, we're back at 5 and 7. Love you. Thanks to the COE for holding the fort down while I was away in Space Coast on the West Coast. Steve Cohen, who's booking the guests for tonight. And of course, our amazing mods. Best guests, better community. See you at 5.